Welcome to another music-filled edition of Marquee Backstage All Access. I'm your host, Julie Milam. As always, we are going to dive deep into the lives and music of our guests, and we will share 5 full-length song performances, all of which were recorded at Thunder Sound Studios. With blues, roots, and classic rock and roll influences, we're going to stir things up today with the Wild Boys of OTIS. So to get us started, here's OTIS with Last Fool in the Line. That was Last Fool in the Line by our friends Boone, John, Andrew, and Steve, who make up the incredible group OTIS. Next, we will get a glimpse into the dynamic of your favorite band as we sit down with the guys and talk about how OTIS jumped onto the music scene. After that, you'll hear another powerful performance of their song, Lindales. So who created the birth child that became OTIS? Who is to blame?
That's a question for these.
I guess it was me and Boone starting it off.
Oh, your fault. You.
We got
You got us all into this.
It's your fault.
Me and Boone used to play with his dad's band over in Somerville, and we had, a Friday and Saturday night show every weekend, and we were used to playing the same songs pretty much every weekend. We'd throw a couple different ones in, but we thought, man, we want to get together and play some blues.
He stopped loving her.
Every night.
There you go.
Every night.
Yeah. Took the reef off the door.
Haggard and Jones.
Door.
Door.
You gotta perfect that when you sing.
Were you the number one
Door.
fan?
Me? Yeah, of OTIS, yeah, absolutely. Of John Seeley and of Conway and
He had
all
his
that,
own set of problems.
That's a song.
There you
That
go.
is a song, my own set of problems. Yeah.
So where do we go from there?
Well, I guess after a couple of years, right, of jamming at Boone's dad's jamboree, eventually Andrew came around.
He
Right?
did.
And
Stayed.
I started saying
Yeah.
he's still here.
still here. Still here. So you took a job, right, playing drums at the jamboree?
The ultimate job.
Ultimate job. What was your favorite country songs to play?
Oh, man. Satin sheets.
Satin Sheets.
It's always a great one.
Yeah. If you hear hard hitting, baby, over here on all them Otis records, it took playing Satin Sheets. And
Louisiana Saturday night. That was a
she's
jam.
There you go.
Yeah.
did you ever play Wipeout any?
I did.
Yeah.
So Boone used to play drums when I was playing with the jamboree, with his dad's jamboree, and he'd like to put triplets in, on the drums every chance he could on every inappropriate song.
So you're sitting there playing Good Hearted Woman. She's a good hearted woman.
There you go.
Blast beats.
Boone
That's how you
style.
survive it.
I think he got fired at least every weekend once,
Probably.
but he was always
Family.
back the next
Yeah.
day. It was-
Can't get rid of him.
Let me dig us out of this hole. At some point, there was a three-piece version of Otis, and at some point, Steve Jewell messaged me on,
MySpace.
yeah.
Oh,
And,
back in the
MySpace.
day.
for those of you that know MySpace,
Late
Yeah.
aughts.
you might need to look it up.
And, mentioned
Yeah.
joining the band as a second guitar player, and I ignored him.
He ignored me.
Yeah.
I was like, I'll show him. I'll try to steal their bass player away. Didn't happen. No, what happened was, so MySpace just came out, and I remember YouTube just was like really big, so I was like woodshed and learning all this guitar stuff on YouTube, and I was like, I want to play. I think I'm ready to be in a band now. And I was like, what bands back home need a second guitar player? And so at the time, they were called 44 Magnum. And I remember looking, and they were three-piece, and I was like, ooh, well, they don't have a second guitar player. There's my end. And I hit them up, and at the time, they're like, well, we're kind of digging this three-piece blues rock thing, so we're going to kind of pursue that for a while.
It's a
And I
big
was
part
like,
of our identity at the time. We're
Yeah,
all about Cream and all these
Yeah.
other three-piece bands. That
Experience.
it was a big deal.
Yeah. And
And I got to play crazy bass lines all the time.
Yeah.
Without a guitarist in there trying to mess that up.
yeah, but I'll never forget it. Right around this time, some of us started working together at a day job that we had back in town. And I was doing some stuff in Nashville, playing for various artists at the time. And right around this time, they just put out a new EP, and they were getting ready to do a home show, kind of like EP release, and invited me out to come hang out and jam. And I
They
was like,
gave in.
yeah, well, I was like, shoot, I'm off this weekend. I get to go hang out with some of my buddies, and they were my favorite local band. And I've always said, they were my favorite local band. That's the one band I wanted to join because they played a lot of the same stuff that I loved and were doing what I wanted to do too. So we jammed. I got up and jammed with them. We had a good time and didn't think nothing about it. And I went off and did some gigs with a gentleman out of Nashville. And I remember coming back to work and talking to Boone about how I was so excited because I thought this guy was maybe, going to give me a chance, and it seemed kind of pretty promising. And, I was going to quit my day job and get to go play with this guy in Nashville. And Boone was just listening to me, and he's like, oh,
Nodding.
typical, waiting for me to shut up. And finally I stopped talking, and he was like, well, anyways, we want to know maybe if you want to join our band. And I was like, heck yeah, man. When now?
But here's the thing, you're
We're
going to
gonna
stay
jam
at your day job. We're going to jam for a year without hardly playing any gigs because we're going to get it right. And that's the way it ends up being,
Yeah.
You get to go on the road now with this guy in Nashville
Yeah.
and quit your day job or not do that. And
Had to give
Yeah.
ourselves our own artist development.
Right. And here's the thing, like, we all, kind of already knew each other just from living in rural America in a small town. So if anybody plays, you know who they are, especially if you play. So we've known each other, like those two, I think you two knew Andrew, like even really before he was kind of in the band.
quite a
right?
while, yeah.
Yeah.
We met him several years
Right.
ago. Me and him went to school together.
And our families, all play music, and we met each other that way. John's brother used to play with his dad and passed that gig along to John, and that's how John
Yep.
and Boone started this. So it's just small town stuff. So we all knew each other, and it just, just got to be patient and wait for things to work out, and it just worked out that us four is Otis.
So when did you decide the band name? Because obviously that was a big change. 4-piece, new name, new style, new direction.
Not really a new style as much. The style has changed over the years, but at the time that we changed the name, that was actually before Steve and Andrew came in. It was just a few years before that. So, Ben, I'll let you tell that story.
That come from hanging out with Greg Martin of the Kentucky Headhunters at
Dean Smith.
and then Dean Smith at White Castle in Glasgow. They said we should name the band Otis. And we're like, well,
Yeah.
obviously we should if Greg Martin said so.
Yeah.
So,
Greg and Dean suggested
Yeah.
we got to do that.
yeah, so that's how we got there.
A lot of people ask us that. You believe it or not, we've had people like, I want to buy your T-shirt because my uncle his name's Otis, and so it works out. A lot of people ask, well, is it because of Andy Griffith or is it because of this or that? And no, just some friends and mentors back home during the early days suggested the name, and we're like, sure, that sounds cool.
So where did you take the name from there? Because obviously you have to think, okay, I can see it on the outside of big venues. I can see the merch. Like, did you start working with how you wanted the font to be?
Branding and all that. I think we still are.
Yeah, we still are.
Yeah.
It's a continual process, coming up with
Yeah.
a mascot, a thing that would be good on a patch, and different things. We work
Evolving.
on.
Basically.
You never quit working on that. It's something that you just keep going. Some people get lucky, like Grateful Dead obviously had a smash hit with theirs. You can tell what they have going on without even seeing the name. You know what it's associated with, a tie-dye shirt or the logo immediately, takes you right there immediately.
Right.
So we're still working on getting that mascot worked out. But as
But
far
not-
as the fonts and stuff, we've
Yeah.
tried different things, hand-drawn stuff. But it typically stays in that retro 60s kind of
Yeah.
vibe.
That, right, but not so much in the traditional format, kind of that you were mentioning. Kind of more like, evolving and trying different things. Like, for example, what I'm referring to is this year we talked about, like, hey, what about if we take Otis and make acronyms out of it? Maybe like out there in space, like CHAR, out there in space.
We're out there.
We're out there as well. We're out there. So, evolving it from that aspect in that context when you talk about branding and logos or whatever, just to try different things just to have fun, and why not?
But it's a business, just like any other business.
Yeah.
You have to figure out your marketing plan. You have to figure out your brand, and then it will constantly evolve, especially as it grows.
Yep.
Absolutely.
All those things matter. I think that your logos and your artwork, all that's really going to add to the core of the business. But the core of the business is obviously the music, and that's what you got to have right. And the rest of it is important, but it doesn't matter without that core of the music.
Subjective.
Right. Absolutely. Well, you guys absolutely have it right. And you took the time
Oh, so
to get it right. which I totally admire. And you don't hear that
Thank you.
from very many artists where you're like, you know what, we're going to back up a minute.
We're still taking the time.
It's a slow
Yeah.
but very rewarding process.
Right.
Just put it that way.
For sure.
And I mean, us four, I mean, this trickles into everything. This trickles into from how we write certain songs to even t-shirt designs or branding ideas, is just what we love and who we are and our personalities that trickle into our music and our band. And it starts to trickle in through other things, whether it's things for content for marketing or for branding ideas or whatever. You know, like musically, I remember first joining the band, like Andrew brought this very strong jazz presence kind of to the band. He kind of, at the time, was kind of dabbling more and studying more kind of in-depthly into jazz, certainly more than what I was.
Or me.
Yeah, and then so when you kind of bring your own personal flares and things that you like and your personal taste and stuff like that, and you get, that's the beauty of being in a band and collaborating in general. You know, when you start collaborating on across the whole entire board, it doesn't matter if you're really into country or if you're really into this or that, or if you're really into these styles of t-shirts or this style of branding or whatever. Put all that together, and if you know how to go about it right, you can make some really interesting things. And so you could take something like him bringing his influence of jazz in, that could not only influence our music, but it also could give us a cool creative idea of how to put out certain content kind of from a more retro jazz perspective or something. There's so many angles you can go about it and do with it. So, you know, it's a good thing about having personality and let that kind of trickle in and influence things in a correct way.
And it makes a lifelong impression.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Kind of brings me, ties into the writing process itself. You know, there's different parts of songwriting that different ones of us are better at. And we all get together though, when one of us writes a song, if we write by ourselves, it doesn't sound like Otis. If any one of us sits down and writes a song all the way out, it sounds like us individually. And when we all get together and jam and work on a song, that's when it becomes, three of the four of us can be in there and it's still not right. When all four of us finally work on the song, it takes on the life of a song that would be written by Otis. And that's something that, I think we take for granted in our own heads. We don't really think about it that much, but, I know different bands have different processes of writing, different people have different processes. But that's our process. Somebody comes up with an idea, and until we all get together and really pull that out as a band, it's not going to be what it's going to be finished. Yeah, it's not going to be complete.
I love it.
It's just kind of cool to think about too. It's like sitting here doing this right now in this moment. It's like I'm sitting here next to John Seeley, for example, and I think about him. I'm like, not only am I sitting here with our bass player and our brother, but I'm sitting here next to the guy that was in his wedding. I was there when he bought his first house. We're growing up together and all this stuff. So now all of a sudden, when you're in a room writing with somebody, and that's starting to hit me now. The older that I get, I'm starting to look back. I'm like, these are the guys that I'm growing up with. These are the guys that I'm experiencing so much with, inside and outside of music. And it just really starts to make me really appreciate things differently from a whole new perspective. So it's really it's just I don't know. It's really great when you stop and get out of your head and get out of the normal grind of whatever and just really try to look at things full circle and appreciate things. And it's just, so cool, It's been the four of us for all these years so far. No different lineup changes or any of that stuff since it's been us four. And
no, when you and Andrew joined the band, it was pretty much done. That was what we needed. We may add some auxiliary stuff here and there, or may bring in some keys to work on a song in studio, different artists, but this is the core of the band, and it's not going to change.
Probably anybody else that would put up with the four of us.
yeah.
We know each other's quirks and moods.
Yeah,
And
that's a marriage.
It is. I mean, it's absolutely a
own
partnership.
marriage, yeah.
But what you four have is truly a gift. And I think you all see that. And I
Yeah.
think you all appreciate what you have and what you can create together as a whole. And I love that we're a part of it.
Well,
Yeah,
thanks for
thank you
having
so
us
much.
and
We appreciate
making yourselves a part of it with us.
Yeah. Thank you for
There's
letting
nowhere to go but up.
us. Exactly.
Let's do it.
Thank you for letting us be ourselves.
When my wheel cross the track, until the sun comes up, I won't be back. I'm a howling wolf looking for Queen Bee. I don't need nobody come and rescue me. Yeah, come on, let's go. Oh, baby, let's go. Come on with me. Come on, let's go. Oh, let's go. Down the I'm doing all the right things on the wrong side of town. Ain't gonna let nobody take me down. Everybody gonna know my name, 'cause I'm feeling better than Jesse James. Yeah. Come on, let's go. Oh, baby, let's go. They got muddy waters on the jukebox. Come on, let's go. Oh, baby, let's go. I'm gonna
We know you can't get enough of Otis, and neither can we. Follow them on social media for their latest music, official merch, and tour dates at The Otis Band on Facebook, at Otis Band Official on Instagram, or visit their website at theotisband.com. And while you're at it, make sure to follow us on social media as well at Marquee Backstage. That is where you'll find out about upcoming guests, more music, and loads of extras. Up next, guitar player extraordinaire Steve Jewell opens up about life on the road, how they try to stay on top of an industry that's quickly evolving, and so much more. Then get ready for one of our favorite tunes as Otis performs The Weary. Steve, you and the guys have been at this for quite a while, and you really have become an inspiration to other musicians. How does that feel to know other people look up to you and really learn from your life experience?
You know, that's a hard question to kind of answer in one regard, because you're so busy, you know, just trying to work and put the time in, that a lot of times, you know, you don't really kind of stop and appreciate things. And especially, you know, us, we're guilty of this, and so are a lot of other bands that's out here really trying to make this happen, is a lot of times you're pushing so hard that you're not stopping to appreciate things. You're not stopping to take care of yourself. You're not stopping to readjust. You know, a big part of doing things is trying things through trial and error, and then you make adjustments along the way to, you know, cater to whatever it is you're trying to do. And yeah, you know, it's just like when we go and get to do certain things, whether if it's playing on festivals in different countries with meeting some of our heroes that we admire, it's kind of really hard to take in the moment, especially over the past couple of years, because when you're struggling, you know, and you're in the thick of it, and you're out on the road encountering everything imaginable, because in today's music industry, there's just not, you know, any kind of infrastructure, anything set up for up-and-coming bands, artists, musicians alike to strive, you know, and do this. So, yeah, you know, you don't stop sometimes and think about what impact you're having on others, appreciating what you're getting to kind of, you know, experience. And, you know, I think if you don't stop and take care of yourself and take care of things, and you know, whether it's in your business or things personally or at home on the road or within the band or whatever, then at some point, you know, I think you can be very prone to reach a breaking point. And, you know, we kind of experienced that a little bit as far as needing to stop and regroup and redefine what success actually is to us. And, you know, because you get so many new up and coming people, and that's trying to do this in today's or the more traditional approach to the music industry, are just failing, you know, and they're suffering, going through so much. You know, there's so many nights where, you know, you're in the middle of nowhere, freezing to death, sleeping in a van, playing in front of 5 people or less, and you stop and you think and you wonder, you know, like, what am I doing? I have a warm bed at home, you know, I've got, you know, food to eat at home. I ain't got to try to eat, you know, stale van snacks and Pop-Tarts or whatever you got laying around. And then, yeah, and that's the thing. So the reason why that's been so hard, and it come to a point where we kind of had to really stop and refocus and regroup and redefine a couple things, like so many other bands has had to do and are probably currently doing right now, is because we just don't fit that mold. You know what I'm saying? We don't fit the mold of how to do things in the traditional way of things in the music industry. And, you know, it got to a point to where, you know, just too many things are kind of based around payola, and that's just something that, you know, it's just not something that's necessarily an option for us. And, you know, taking that approach, we would much rather take it with the reciprocity approach. You know, when there's something that can be mutually beneficial for both parties, because, you know, we've toured a lot and played with a lot of bands, and we've had way more bands that's played with us than, you know, or up and coming bands kind of on our level, local bands, whatever we played with, that's gave us their money, let us stay at their house, fed us, done way more stuff to kind of help us and give back, because they know what it's like. They know what it's like to be there and to be subjected, you know, to all this stuff. And, you know, it got to a point where me personally, it was starting to take a toll on, you know, some mental kind of health issues. Not necessarily in a far, you know, extreme way per se, but it just got to where the point where we were working so hard and, you know, trying to do everything that we thought this is what we had to do. We had to do it this way, a way that's just not really set up for a band like us and our kind of music. Because, I mean,
our kind of music you may not necessarily hear on the Grammys. You may not necessarily hear it televised on, on any kind of, big shows or all over radio or whatever. But, we do write music that, from our moral beliefs that, has an audience for that. It doesn't matter if we need to reach those, we can reach those people now, basically is what I'm trying to say. It doesn't matter if we take the traditional music business route of doing that or if we try to utilize resources that we have now, to our advantage. And so that's what we're doing, our kind of new approach of doing things. And kind of way, what we took away from all of that is what we don't want to do and who we don't want to be. And, it's just, there's too many times where you find yourself in situations where you work with people and it's always their agenda over your best interest. And there's just so much, smoke and mirrors, and there's just so much, false hope and broken promises. And everything, when everything falls through, it's always the blame's always deflected on you. And I see it happen all the time, I see where people that work with artists, up-and-coming artists especially, where they tell them, like, bro, if you just add 3 more weeks onto your tour, you'll get the headline Madison Square Garden next year. And then they do that, subject themselves to that after they've been on tour for Lord knows how long, and they're suffering mentally, stuff suffering maybe within the band. You just need a break and need to regroup, or stuff at home. And then, so they subject themselves to do all that because these people are supposed to have their best interest at heart. And then that next year comes around and you're still playing the same stuff, you're on the same level career-wise. And then a lot of times, a lot of those people just kind of deflect blame on you because, well, they probably don't know any better than you do, And so, kind of what that kind of told me is that it's kind of came to a point in today's music industry where we're all just kind of figuring this out and having to redefine what is success for us and for everybody. And, we're going to have to make some adjustments moving forward. And, if you pursue that more kind of traditional way of doing things, that's fine. But, thankfully now we've got resources and things where it can kind of cater to everybody on all genres, on all levels. It doesn't matter if you make guitars out of hubcaps and you play bluegrass country music on it. There's a market for that. There's people that like that, people that want to be your fans and see you live and all that stuff. So, and I'm really excited. You kind of got to go through some things. You got to live some life to figure things out. And that's what we've been doing. We've been at this for a while, for many years, and we've grown up together. We've been in each other's weddings. We've been there, when we're broke and didn't have any money, and helping each other out to to pay the bills. While we're on tour. We've been there when you're having children. One of the guys in the band having their first child, or first time marriages, or first time buying homes, or whatever it may be. So we're kind of growing up together in that regards, together as friends and as a band, and definitely within the business side of things in our band. So we just grown so much together across the whole board. And it's what you got to do. You got to grow. You got to grow. You got to go through things and make adjustments along the way. And that's kind of brought us to where we're at now. We've made some adjustments. We've kind of redefined a couple things, what's important to us and what's definitely not. And the new approach kind of that we're taking and moving forward is just stuff based on the correct things like reciprocity. So we're very excited about that. And the way we've always operate, and any advice that we always tell everybody, any band or what have you, is we're family first and we're band second. So I care way more about those guys than I'm sure they do me, than a guitar or a show or this or that. So it's got to be founded on the right things.
Amen.
My eyes long to see another sunrise.
but here in the holler it's dark and cold. I'm getting old, the land is also, but I still hunger for the taste of gold. The light and the dark, each way apart. The water will only save your true self. The wind will go to the well, running water casts a spell. Cross your heart and never tell. Good and evil, it comes from the well. News spread around, steel wheels came to town. People searching for something to heal their soul. The promise where a man would no longer stand. Brother, can you tell me what's more precious than gold? The light and the dark, each blaze apart. The one will only save your true self. The weary go to the well, muddy water casts a spell. Cross your heart and never tell. Good and evil, it comes from the well. The weary go to the well, muddy water casts a spell. Cross your heart and never tell. Good and evil, it comes from the well. My eyes long to see another sunrise.
We would like to thank our friends at Thunder Sound Studios for allowing us to film our show from their fully equipped analog and digital recording studio complex in Franklin, Kentucky. For more information about Thunder Sound, please visit thundersound.com or follow them on social media at Thunder Sound Studio. Now it is time to see what the future looks like for Otis. We will hear from lead vocalist and guitar player Boone Froggatt as he sits down with Steve Jewell and shares his fondest memories visiting music venues and which ones they are still waiting to play. After that, we have a dynamic performance of Change. 2020 is the year of much anticipated new music from Otis.
Yeah.
Can you give us a sneak peek of what's to come?
Absolutely. So for this year, 2020, we're releasing 2 EPs. We're releasing one in the spring. We're going to release one in the fall. With the new music, we're having a lot of fun when it comes to creating content that kind of surrounds that. You know, we may do all kinds of stuff, whether it's content and footage to support the new music of us at KFC or something, maybe trying to sing for our dinner the new single, or we may be a live performance in the studio, a music performance, live music performance, all kinds of stuff. We're just pretty much just doing whatever we want. We're having fun. And, you know, we're going to look at releasing 1 or 2 singles here in the next couple months. And, then we got some stuff that we're going to do for the fall, a second EP and singles that will kind of coincide with that. But yeah, we're having a lot of fun, trying a lot of new things. As far as like trying new things, basically, kind of what I'm referring to is we're always trying to evolve and just evolve our sound and who we are and grow, if you will. Because, I mean, the way we look at it, we're not in competition with anybody. I'm not in a competition with anybody but myself.
That's right.
And I want to try to be the best I can be, and we want to be the best Otis we can be, and we want to write the best songs that we can that basically, if you kind of look at it from our perspective, a musician's perspective, is our songs are kind of like a current snapshot of our lives. So, or kind of what's going on in that moment in time that you're going through. And kind of what we're going through now is just working hard, trying to catch a break, and, trying to do things the right way, based on the right stuff. And you're going to get that and that vibe and that energy off this next EP. For sure.
Boone, what was the last song written by Otis?
Man, we're actually working on a new one last night.
Okay, can you tell us about it?
Yeah, we can go on it right now and just start writing something. It's just, that's
comes
the
that
awesome.
easily
Yeah,
to you?
it's the awesome thing.
It's actually a riff that Steve was just doodling in the studio, and he was like, "Man, that sounds cool." So he, of course, recorded it on his phone memos.
Yeah.
So we have between the two of us, we have hundreds of those. And we were rehearsal last night. I was like, "Man, play that. Let's see what we can do with that." And the four of us tore into it, and before we knew it, we had a song.
Yeah. You never know what we may do. We may write a country song today. Tomorrow it may be a bluegrass. Tomorrow it may be blues or blues rock or rock and roll, whatever. We stem from so much, and geographically where we are from in South Central Kentucky, we're kind of in a prime area. If you think about it, with the Motown stuff that came out of Detroit and stuff that came out of the Mississippi Delta, and you start naming artists that came out of the state of Kentucky over the years, and they're in so many different genres. So, we'd like to try to showcase that, that kind of coincides with the evolving aspect with our songwriting. So we always try to be ourselves, that's for sure.
So do you sit around and dream up the next tour as well? Venues that you've never been to, cities, countries that you've not yet been to, other artists that you want to play with? Is there anything that you guys sit around and go, hey, I think we need to conquer this next time?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. We got a lot of ideas and a lot of things we want to achieve and want to do, and and we've been very blessed and very fortunate to be able to do that. And this year, in 2020, the thing we're setting out to do is the whole reciprocity aspect of basically just playing and touring with our friends and people that we love and admire their music, doing it for the right reasons, and just sharing just everything across the board, music with each other, our fans, our audience. But we did get to do some bucket list items for sure.
No doubt.
Last year, Boone and I eating pizza side stage in England, watching Foreigner and Cheap Trick, and it was just insane. It was amazing.
Did you look at each other and go, is this really happening?
We did. We kind of took a moment and said, well, we'll probably remember this for a while.
Yeah. Was there any countries we hit last year that you thought was really cool, like a bucket list type thing for you?
Playing Belfast Hall was pretty cool.
Oh, yeah.
Because that's the first place that Zeppelin played their Stairway to Heaven live, and that was just
Stand on that stage.
really
Did you
special
feel it?
moment.
I mean,
Oh yeah.
Could you really feel that vibe in the room?
Oh
Yeah.
And behind us, they had this huge pipe organ, and once in a while you would hit a note, and it would just whistle through that organ. It was heavy.
You
heavy
literally
experience.
could feel it in your soul.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And now you're creating music that does that for others.
We sure hope so.
I hope so. Hopes people are getting some good out of it. It's definitely what we strive to do, is just try to write and release and distribute, just music with a positive, uplifting message. That it doesn't matter if it's talking about being down on your luck this week and come up short on rent, can't make your rent, or if it's about peace and love, simple as that. Just real stuff people can relate to, not anything it's just kind of refurbished or fake, because it's definitely not who we are. And we're just trying to spread our message of positivity and doing our part.
Well, you're doing your part. It's music that feels good to the soul, and you stay true to your gift but also enjoying music and playing with other artists that do the same for you.
Absolutely. And I get to play with my favorite singer and one of my favorite guitar players on the planet, Boone Frogger, ladies and gentlemen.
There you go, bragging on it. Got it on camera.
Got it on camera. That is awesome. I get to play with my favorite musicians, favorite people in the world every show. So
Every single show. I mean, it's better than money can buy, really.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. If you're playing in front of 5 people or 5,000, if you're getting to do it with your best friends and your buds and people you love playing with, I mean, it's a blessing. It's always a blessing.
So when you flip it around and you think not only about how the music feels to you and what it means to you, and you put yourself out in the audience of those 5,000 to 5,000 people, what do you think they get from an experience with Otis? What do you hope that they take away?
I can't really speak for what they get, but if you put us in front of the right crowd, we get so much from them that it's undescribable, really.
Yeah.
If we could just give them a percentage of what they give us, that's what it's all about.
Absolutely. I mean, that's one of the powerful things about live music and especially where we stem from and what we love. Some of my favorite records are live albums. It doesn't matter if it's Aretha Franklin live at the Fillmore, or Humble Pie live at the Fillmore. I love a lot of the live at the Fillmore stuff. The Allman Brothers, of course, all that stuff. But yeah, and kind of when you stop and think about it, it doesn't matter if you think about music that you're writing, content that you're creating, or whatever. I think more bands and artists across the board need to realize that we're not necessarily solving real life problems with our music. It's more existential problems. So, meaning if you sing about peace and love, and that's your moral beliefs, and you're portraying that in your songwriting, you're going to attract people that coincide with those morals and those beliefs as well. So, what that tells me, it doesn't matter when it comes to sitting down and writing a song, putting out merch ideas or new content, or even the atmosphere that we want to create at a live show. At the end of the day, the way to do it, I think, is you have to be yourself, be honest, recreate what you like and what you're trying to get across, because more often than not, your fans and people that follow you and like you are more like you than what you realize. So if you're being yourself, it's a win-win.
The only rule is there ain't no rules.
Exactly. We're just looking for a place to do our thing. Right?
That's right.
Peace, love, and respect, man. We're going to pass it on. I love it. I love
Absolutely.
it. Can't get enough of it. Thank you.
Yep.
If you would like to watch the full televised episode of OTIS, please subscribe to our YouTube channel at Marquee Backstage for all full episodes, video extras, and more. We've had a great time with you today, and we hope you've enjoyed it as well. Next week, we're going to slow things down with the melodic songwriting of Sis, and we know you will love it too. But before we go, here is one more killer performance by OTIS. This is called Let Me Burn. I'm your host, Julie Milam, and I will meet you here next week for more Marquee Backstage All Access.